Okay, hi everyone. So today's topic is building a chatbot, but this chatbot will be rule based instead of as in the previous class we did figure out a way to train a model on some training data which told us that if the email is spam or not. This will be a rule based chatbot. So anyone who wants to take a guess, how does a rule based chatbot differs from a proper chat interface or a proper trained model? Yes, Athar, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So a rule-based chatbot is basically a chatbot in which all the answers to the predefined questions are already present. For
Mhm.
example, if I say to the chatbot, "Hi," I will always get a response, "Hello." The response will
Mhm.
never change. But if
Mhm.
I ask any question that is not specified, for example, if I'm having a restaurant chatbot and I ask
Mhm.
it about how do you make your like ingredients, from where do you source it, and if there's no
Mhm.
answer saved already, so it won't
Mhm.
reply.
Okay. Yes, that's a great answer. So the major difference is uh, uh, that the flow on which a rule-based chatbot or a normal chatbot differs from is really basic. Like, so if the user gives an input, a rule-based chatbot just checks the rules and gets a matched reply if that rule is previously mentioned or predefined. If it is not defined and the user gives an input which is not something the chatbot is expecting, then the result will not be an appropriate result or the output will not be as desired. But in the previous session, when we learned about classifiers, the user input uh, gets interacted with a trained model, which then gets a predicted reply from the trained model. And that is the major difference. And the other list of differences are mentioned as well. That the rule-based chatbot cannot learn and the rules don't change. We can just add on more rules. And an ML or AI chatbot improves with the data and the input that has been provided to it. The predictability of a rule-based chatbot is very, very predictable and it's really easy to debug. And you can implement this in a very niche use case wherein you know what the user is going to reply and what is your fixed use case for it. And an ML or AI chatbot is less predictable and can surprise you. Uh, Sometimes, most of the times, you also notice that once you give a response to any of the chatbot application or an LLM application you're interacting with, the LLM never replies same for the even if the same question is asked to it. There's always a difference in the reply and because every time we ask a particular question through the NLM, it regenerates the process and it regenerates the output each and every time, and it can be really different from the previous output of the same question. Okay. And the new phrasing in a rule-based chatbot, it's really poor, and you need exact keywords to get it working. And in ML and AI chatbots, it's generally better because it generalizes from training. The effort to build is rule-based chatbot is pretty less because we need to just specify if else statements. And for ML and AI chatbot, you need a lot of label data for training and for training a particular specific model so that it can get you the replies that you want and it can generate the output that you want. Okay. So many of you will be familiar of what if and else if is. Also, one simple difference more is rule-based chatbots are really good for simple FAQs and fixed workflows and demos. But for open-ended conversations and nuances, MLAI chatbots are really, really better. Okay, so just some simple rule-based chatbot examples are, for example, uh, when you call a specific helpline number and it replies to like press one for this, press two for this. The rules are fixed in that particular chatbot's uh, memory, and simple FAQ widgets and simple, like for example, sometimes you get an auto reply from an email sender who's out of office, or some sort of automatic reply which is already predefined.
Are
And
like chatbots of Zomato or Byju's?
no, the Zomato chatbots are a bit different, or they're an extended version of rule-based chatbot because you have a lot of options on it. You specify that for this particular problem, there can be these many options, and sometimes that option may not suffice to your needs, and sometimes you can fail that chatbot. It's not fully generative and it's not fully interactive like a normal LLM is, but it is to an extent an extended version of a rule-based chatbot only. It's not fully automated, and once it gets to a point where you have to talk to a real person, it then assigns you a real person to you, so you can interact with that person. So it is mostly a rule-based chatbot, but an extended and complex version of it. Okay, it's not directly an ML or AI-based chatbot. Sometimes
Can we say
works.
Chat GPT is the example of rule-based chatbot?
No, ChatGPT is not an example of rule-based chatbot because it is generating output for me, right? Because
Can we say that Baiju's chatbot is a example of rule-based chatbot?
so personally, I haven't used Baiju's chatbot, so I'm aware of exactly how is it working. I know about Zomato and other companies, but Baiju's chatbot I haven't used, so I can't really comment on it. But someone can explain me what it exactly does, so I can tell you what is it doing behind the scenes. How does Baiju's chatbot behaves? Anyone can tell me?
So actually, if you chat with it, after some time, it will tell you to sign in or apply for the Baiju's classes. And it
So,
doesn't work much
so,
in
so
life.
actually, that chatbot that would have been made for only one and only sole purpose to increase the number of sign-in and registrations. So that every time you ask it a particular question, it will then circle around and then again ask you to sign in and register to the website. So that's something different. But yeah, Zomato's chatbot is an extended version of this chatbot. Okay, so um, so basically in a rule-based chatbot, we'll be defining the rules by using if and else statements only, if, else, and else if, which means if this, then the response should be this, else if this, then the response should be this, and if all the above does not meet, the default response should be written in else. Okay, so here's a very simple example. Like if the message is hello there, if hello string is present in the message, then reply print hi, how can I help you? If bye message is present, bye string is present in the message, then print goodbye. Else, if none of these are present, then just give a vague reply. Oh, I'm not sure, I don't understand. Okay, so this is a very simple way of just defining some sort of rules as per your use cases and as per your needs. And okay, yeah, so this is a key point. If elif actually means else if, but in Python it's the syntax is written as elif and only runs if everything above it fails. And else catches if everything above has failed, and it's the default reply. Yes, Arnav, you want to say something?
Sir, if we ask a rule-based chatbot about a question it's that it is not in its knowledge, and will it give us a basic information about that, or it will just fail?
So, as I stated earlier, rule-based chatbots expect you to reply in a certain way. They are actually being built, just to support some basic workflows so that whenever a person is interacting, they know how they are going to reply. And sometimes you can easily break a rule-based chatbot. Okay, you can always ask it something which has not been defined in the rule of that chatbot. Okay, so if you ask a rule-based chatbot something that it is not ready to respond to, but just give you the default reply, and it will always most of the cases it is like, oh, I do not understand, or let me connect to a actual executive, something like that. Because in that cases, their by default response is, okay, these my list down problems, my listed problems are not being solved by the chatbot as of now. You can just directly connect to a person so that he or she can just connect with you and just solve your problem. I'll give you an example. So uh, I recently connected Airtel broadband Wi-Fi, okay, and I wanted to uh, just remove my connection because I was shifting. So I went to the Airtel app and I constantly replied something like there was no direct helpline number. I was forced response on the chatbot that Airtel provided. So I always started. So their rule-based chatbot is a bit different. Okay, so it is actually uh, getting. So in this example, you can see that we are actually finding if that particular word or string is present in the message or not. But in that rule-based chatbot, which I was interacting with, it was actually finding the meaning of my message. If that meaning of the message can be matched as per their rules, they gave me some predefined options to choose from. I chose their options and I went to a conclusion. Okay, this is not helping me out. So at the end of it, they always just resorted out to just connecting me to a person or just raising a you know requisition request so that they can respond to me later on. So that was their default response for that rule-based chatbot. It is not a fully interactive chatbot. You can just talk to and will respond to you as per your message. They have a fixed set of rules and instructions and options predefined in their functionality so that they know uh, what the customer is expecting. And if you ask something which is not defined, that will be just chatbot will just break and will not fulfill your requirement. Okay. Any doubts? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Okay. So if an else and else statements, so next we'll move forward with string matching. Okay, so string matching is pretty simple. In this particular piece of code, we just declare a particular variable containing hello, and if we match, and if you need to find this, uh, and if we need to find this, what's the difference between these two particular print statements? Can anyone tell? It's written down there, but the logical response is the first case will fill um, in for this particular variable because hello has been printed in caps and the rule which is being checked on is printed in lowercase. Okay, because we need to first convert whatever the message is into lowercase and then match, okay, if this is present or not, because string matching is very case sensitive. All right. Okay, so here you can see users type hi, hi, hi all differently. So when we are checking it for string matching, we generally there's uh, this convention that we just convert whatever the string has been provided into uh, lowercase, which makes the matching more reliable and uh, makes the bot feel responsive, and it can it can detect if the message is correct or not. Okay,
सर एक
so
बार बस ये कोड बता दो दोबारा से जो मैसेज इक्वल टू हेलो वाले.
okay, just a second. Just so just declare this hello. If hello message print yes or else print no. And then just make it string. Okay, so if I print this, what will be printed? Any guesses?
Yes, it will print yes.
Okay, it will print no. Okay, why? Because string matching is pretty case sensitive. Okay, so if I wanted to print into yes, then I have to convert the the variable that I'm checking on to lower. Okay, so if I do this, now we can yes. And if I just change this, it will print no. It's just- It will print no again because the string is changed. So if this particular part is not mentioned, then it will by default just directly match the string as it is. And because Python is case sensitive, and this string will be different from this string, hence it will say this one, it doesn't match with the other string, with this string. So in this case, it will print yes, but if it's not mentioned as dot low, it will print. Now is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. Anyone is able to see, right? So just go through this piece of code and what can you understand this? And just fill in correct the indentation. Take the time and just try to make sense out of whatever the code is trying to say.
Excuse me, sir.
Hmm. Yes, yes,
Sir, I'm not able to understand this while and break.
sure. So this is the correct indentation. So anyone who has been able to make sense out of whatever the code is written can just raise your hand. Okay, Arnav, go ahead. Okay, no worries. So I'll explain what this piece of code is trying to do. Okay. So we learned about loops in previous sessions, right? So while true means this loop will continue until it is being forced to break, which means if I, so this particular part is the part of the loop. Okay, so this will just continue until I, just force it to break. And the condition for it to break is being specified here. So if I run this, every time I enter a particular message, uh, you know, it will just reply back with the message that I have entered. So basically, it's mimicking a bot, this particular loop, and it's just printing the message whatever I'm typing because here it is taking an input from me. Okay. But whenever I just type quit, then that loop will see, okay, if the user's input contains a particular text called as quit, then I'll print the bot, then the bot will print goodbye, and this break statement will work. And this while loop will only break and will only stop in that particular scenario. Let's run this. Let me show you what I mean. For example, if I just print hi, it will say, you said hi. If I just say, how are you? It will again say, I said, how are you? So it's mimicking a bot. It's not actually a bot. It's basically just continuing a loop until I give it a response which it is expecting to break. So if I just say, uh, do you, it will not break. But if I mention quit, then the loop gets ended and the functionality gets stopped. The loop breaks in that particular instance, it sends me goodbye. So also in this case, if I just mention quit in all caps or not all caps, let's say Mhm. Okay. Let's say you quit. Okay. And the quit is mentioned in a mixture of caps and lowers. Okay. So it is still not, it's not, it's failing on this particular instance. Can anyone tell me why? Quickly, quickly.
because the string is not matching.
So the string is because it's totally matching the input string to the quit. Okay. So it's not, uh, the condition is not being fed as if the message contains quit or not. It's being fed as if, you know, the full string matches with quit or not. So if I just type quit alone in the mixture of caps or something, then it will quit. But if the condition gets changed, okay, if the message sent by the user contains quit rather than, is equal to quit, because this just means, okay, the whole
सर अगर हम
input should
क्विट पूरा कैप्स में लिखे तो
go. Okay, if I just use quit cap, then also it will quit because the input gets first converted into lower and then the gesture. Everything, whatever is being written in the input, first gets converted into lowercase, then it's directly matched. Understood?
यस सर
And sir, if we remove the dot lower, then what will happen?
Then if I remove the dot lower, then I have to specifically type quit in lowercase. Otherwise, it will not work. I can also, just if I, just change the U into uppercase and just only type quit, it won't work. I have to specifically type U in uppercase so that it is able to understand because it's doing one-to-one string matching. So if two strings can only be equal if they are in all lowercase. If even one is not in lowercase, then these two strings do not match. Basically, these are variables right now, but if I just set them as strings, for example, in Py, okay, let me just describe it directly. Just a second. So, uh, we are one, let me find TR2 is stings. So this is an action that I'm performing. It will return me true or false. Okay. So if str1 and str2 are not equal, then it will just return me false. Okay. So if I make any changes in this string, and even if one particular character is in caps, then it will still return me false. But if I just change this to lower and this to lower as well, so that both of these string get normalized at the point of checking, and it will return true.
सर
The
अगर हम इनमें से बस एक ही स्ट्रिंग को डॉट लोअर करते तो
So here we have to specifically use dot lower for the second string because the first one is already in lower caps. So if I just use this, then it will also return true because the idea is just just so that both the strings are on the same matching level. Because even if one particular string is in caps and one particular character is in caps and the other one is not, it will just fail because direct one-to-one matching only matches if the string is exactly equal uh, as the other string. It will fail in each and every scenario because it's case sensitive. Anyone else? Or is it clear? Okay.
Clear, sir.
Okay. So this. Okay. Just paste this particular. So this is also, making a rule-based bot. Okay. So what can you understand from this? Anyone wants to give it a try before I run this piece of code? Because if you
Basically
understand
giving
what is the,
conditions.
okay, what conditions, specify the conditions to me, please.
For example, if I give an input such as hello, then the
Hmm.
uh, compiler will return hello, nice to meet you. But for
Hmm.
example, if I say my name or something like that, then
Hmm.
it will say I'm Pybot, your friendly Python chatbot. And if I write quit, then it will give me a reply as goodbye. And if I didn't give and sorry, if I gave any other instruction other from this, so it will not give me any reply. Instead, it will just say, sorry, I don't understand yet, because this is a rule-based chatbot.
Okay. But there's, a big difference between this particular uh, program and this program. And that difference is how the conditions uh, are being fed. Okay. So if, for example,
So sorry to interrupt, but how will the above one be different? Isn't like the overall structure going to be the same?
structure is same, but actually we are directly comparing. I was going to tell this because we are directly matching the string with the previous condition. But here we are checking if the response or whatever the input that I'm providing contains a particular string or not. See, if you clearly see the condition, if hello in the user input, which means if in my input string, the string hello is present. For example, I write anything, it doesn't understand what I'm trying to say, but it's responded with the default response. But if I just say hello, it will give me the response which is decided for the string hello. But also for the scenario hello, how are you doing? It will still give me that response which was decided in the first if statement. So in the fundamental difference in between this piece of code and the previous piece of code is here we are directly matching the string of the input. But here we are checking if that particular string is present in the input or not. That is the major difference between these
Sir,
pieces of
isn't
code.
the ellipse statement wrong because nobody is gonna write name in it instead of their name?
No, this is just for your understanding. Okay, in a real world scenario, this won't even exist because there will be a lot more conditions being fed uh, after this. But for example, if I just type, they ask me something, there's case where I'm not. So this is just a test example. I just specify my name is Ansh, and you can just reply to me by what film package. Just for your example, and for your sake for understanding. This is not into a correlation with the real world scenario. Okay. Also, just a second. This is just a single. I want to uh, use this as a chatbot, interactive chatbot with multiple if and statements. I have to then put it into specifically like mentioned in this of code. So if I just put this conditions into that and also specify where it will break, then it will act as an interactive chatbot of just replying gives me a response as per my reply. And if I want to put, I just type put and just put. But this is just a type where the conditions are being specified. Yeah. So, for example, the main condition was specified if I ask the chatbot what is your, it's just some sort of examples that I've been mentioned words just for your understanding. Okay. And it was specified because I just told you earlier, if I want you to use this into a chatbot format, you can just put it into a while loop so that you can just continue the conversation and just give the response as per normal. I'll just do that. I'll just do that in this. So, to keep the chatbot conversation going, I just okay. So it's ask me, it says ask me something, but whenever I type quit, it will just break the loop because uh, this otherwise this whole while loop will just continue to run. And if I ask it, it will ask me something. Uh, what is doesn't understand that because there is no specific uh, condition that's specifying okay this particular string is matching into in the user input. But if I just define a new condition, and then date, but and this reply with and I just give it a default reply. Then this code that is date and so if that specific situation is described to the chat button, it will reply to it. Otherwise, it only understands. Okay, I'm only designed to reply to these particular strings which are present in the message. If a new string appears from somewhere which I have no clue, I'll just give it. Okay, sorry, I didn't understand this. That's it. So just to keep the conversation going, there's uh, hello, Bob. So I just did a type. So this is also a very big downside. Okay. Normal LLMs do generally understand if I've typed something wrong, but in a rule-based chatbot, it isn't able to understand that I've typed, the comments. So it will directly do a one-on-one match to the strings, otherwise it will fail. Quick, please. Okay. So is everyone clear about this? Because this is just the previous code uh, put into a particular into sorry, a while, specifically a while. Because to have a particular ongoing interaction, we'll have to use a while. So, any doubts regarding this?
Sir, so how can we keep on like going the conversation because this is just ending at hello and goodbye and all.
So, this is just ending and if I just increase the statements, if and else statements, just like I did here, the conversation can increase to more scenarios. I'm just adding more pointers. Just give me 1 second. We added few more scenarios. Okay, so that's it. Tell me a joke. So this is a predefined joke that I just mentioned in this case. So it will then respond to this message as well. That is the other. So I'm check the video. Simple. Can you help? You can ask me about my name, how I am, or ask for a job. So this is just example. If I just increase the else if statements and I just increase the conditions, I can easily make this more factor and just cater to my specific use case. So for that, you just need to add more and more else if statements. But a rule-based chatbot will work as per the rules defined. That is the biggest downside of the rule-based chatbot because if something is not defined in the rules, you just fail it, you just break.
So for making a chatbot in Python, so should we use only the else if, else, and if statements, or
No,
we can use anything else also?
no, this, so to make a fully interactive chatbot, you need a trained model which understands as per the trained data, which the current LLMs are doing. Okay. So for an assistant or a specific workflow chatbot, this rule-based chatbot can be used. But for that scenarios, we need to just list down exact uh, problems that you are trying to cater to. So if the problem says, so let's say for an example, if I'm talking to the Zomato's help desk chatbot and it gives me a list, right? So my default response to start or to initiate a chat will be, these are the set of problems that are listed. Please select your problem, which you are currently facing. And if I choose that my delivery is late, then my instant response for a delivery related issue will be, okay, tell me uh, when did you order? So for that specific scenario, I give it the time and my particular order details and order number. And if I see that the user's response contains an order number or a time or a date, then I'll just, I can run a service which just fetches out all the information regarding that order and just displays what are the current statuses of the order, where the order is lagging, and so on and so forth. So you can make it as complex as you want to cater to your specific need, but behind the scenes, it is just using else statements. These are really, really basic else statements. If I want to do, make a real production based um, which can be used to a specific use case, I'll have to increase the complexity of these statements, of these functionalities. It cannot just be limited to, okay, if this particular string is present in this message, you can just reply with this. No, if this particular string is present in the message, or if this particular data set is being given by the user, then I need to take action on that particular data set or that
So
message.
it also works on the same principles we studied in previous class on keywords,
So,
like studied for
keep,
identifying spam and non-spam.
sorry.
So, like in the previous class, we studied how to identify spam and not spam using
Okay.
keywords. Here it also is using keywords like if I say only joke or if
So,
I it tell me
uh,
a joke, it will.
in the previous session, we tried to solve a classification problem. To solve a classification problem, we need a specific training data. Okay. And from that training data, you train the model as per the training data, which is correctly labeled. And then the model identifies patterns. And if any response comes to it, then makes prediction of it. Okay. That prediction can be wrong, can be right. The more number of images or the more number of training data you provide it to, it will be more accurate. In this case, we are not using any training data. We are just specifying the rules as per our requirement. That is the fundamental difference between this and using a trained model or something like that. So the complexity example I was trying to explain is uh, you can run background services as per the user's requirement. Okay, if you want to fetch some details regarding uh, your in the example case, or for your order, you want to know. Okay, so if I just reply with the message, okay, my order has been delayed by 30 minutes. I just don't know where the uh, delivery boy is. Okay, so uh, in my rule-based chatbot for that scenario, I can just describe that. Okay, if somehow the message that is being given as the input makes or just gives me a response which says, okay, my order contains a particular string called delayed, or where is my order? And you can specify this particular string. Okay, So if for those responses, I can just fetch the details of the where my current order is and get the location details of that order and just present it to the customer so that the customer can get an understanding. Okay, the order is being placed or the order is in transit, something whatever the customer wants. So for that scenario, uh, the rule-based chatbot is sufficient enough. You don't need a specific trained model to give it a response because you understand that the customer will reply as uh, the specific details only and as per the specific checklist. If the customer replies something, hey, tell me a joke, that is not something which the Zomato chatbot is designed for. You're not asking Zomato's chatbot tell you a joke. You can ask ChatGPT to tell you a joke, but not asking Zomato's chatbot to tell you a joke. If you're contacting or if you're interacting with the Zomato's chatbot, you have the intention to, to fulfill your problem. That and as per your problem, that rules are specified that particular business chatbot. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes, Sanchit, I know what's the question.
So I just wanted to ask that it is true that chatbots were coded like this, but aren't most of the companies using ChatGPT models like ChatGPT Mini or Gemini Flash for most of their chatbots these days?
Yeah, so companies now have upgraded and started using cheaper models so that their chatbot seems legitimate. But this is how the chatbot interface used to work like in most of the scenarios. No LLM integration existed in these chatbots uh, until a few years ago. Okay, these
Yes,
uh,
thank you.
rules were only defined and every specific scenarios, however complex the scenario can be, this was the only basic building block to build that chapter. Okay, well, let's move ahead. So herein we can also specify multiple keywords and multiple topics uh, um, rulebook as well. Okay, so because real users phrase things differently. To handle that, we can specify a particular variable containing these all strings and just copy this code. Just a sec. So here it's pretty simple. If whatever a word that I use from the input, if in my input any of this word contains, if my input contains uh, hi, hello, hey, good morning, then my bot will just reply, hey, hi, nice to meet you. So it is catering for multiple scenarios. I can give it the response. I can ask the question as input as hello, hi, hey, anything, good morning, good evening, anything. Then my bot will reply, hey, nice to meet you. Simple. So in this case, we are catering to multiple keywords, multiple scenarios once. So this way only multiple scenarios are defined. And if I just want to use this in more scenarios, I'll just put it into a loop. So this particular code and this particular code means the same thing. Can anyone tell me why? Anyone has doubt in understanding why these particular pieces of code means the same? Everyone understands this, that the second piece of code and the first piece of code is same, right? Because in the second piece of code, we are just uh, paraphrasing the above code, but doing it in a different way. We're just using a loop for it. And by default, we just set a variable to false. And if a particular input is present in the greetings variable, And if that word is in the user input, then I'll just set that variable to true. And if that is true, the bot will just print hello next to it. But in the essence of the piece of code, both are doing the same thing. The second version is just a bit more complex to understand. The first is very straightforward. If any word in user input or word in greetings, then print this. Everyone understands? Any doubts
Yes,
regarding
sir.
this? Great. Great. So, so we can also just if I just complete my chatbot with else if statements, it will work as I designed it to do. But just you just keep on adding multiple else if blocks. But sometimes, as I mentioned, you need a particular action to be performed if that block has been encountered. So for that case, we define multiple functions for for the interaction of each particular statement. So for each particular instance or each particular uh, response that we'll be getting, if the user's response matches to my particular scenario, I'll just create a specific function for it, and that function will run on that particular condition. Okay, so here's the chatbot, but just in a better way, in a better presentable way, with more described functions. That's it. So just go through this. First of all, to this particular, go through this particular piece of it. And if anyone is unable to understand a particular section, they can just raise their hand. I'll explain. This is just the same functionality written in a better way so that it can be converted into a more complex option. Because if I just want to increase the functionality, I'll just increase the number of else if statements and it will make the code really messy and very difficult for us to manage that code. Yes, Janvi. Nothing. So I'll just run this. So if I ask also every time function style sprint like something that's called I'll create that blue. This function that's called index three. This function that's called index three. Just for your reference so that you understand, okay, this condition was fulfilled. So this function should be called. So that's this particular piece of code should be printed. So if I just say I, I'll just say hey, and F1 means the first function was called, I will say hey, it's to me. And if I say what was your name, then F2, the second function was called, making the reply, which was decided for me. If I say so, I just say tell me joke. Then F3 function was called, and gives me a predefined joke as well. Mention how can I do it. Then F4, the fourth function that's called, you can ask your name. So it is the same thing, but written in a very presentable manner and manageable manner so that I can continue to add on more complexity to this code and make it more usable. Okay, that's good. It just
सर
breaks this
ब्रेक और
particular
एलिफ फंक्शन में क्या डिफरेंस है?
break is not uh, a part of the break is used to get out of this particular loop. While the while loop, to get out of that while loop, I have to use a break statement. I have to define a particular condition out of it so that I can get out of that loop. Otherwise, the condition for while loop has been stated to means the while loop will continue to run endlessly. If I just do not define a break statement, then it will never stop. It will just continue to run until the memory runs out. Simple. The break is used with respect to the while loop, not with respect to the if and if statement. If, else, and else if are completely separate from loops. These are just conditional statements that are used as per the need or as per the logic that's
Yes,
being
sir.
implemented. Okay. Architecture. This was the uh, structure of the code that was written. The response function defined at the top, and the decision function, which analyzes which function needs to be called, was defined after it. The two main, so the main response functions and one major function which makes all the decisions to I need to call this function or this function, and the main chat loop also is defined just below it, so that the architecture, the structure of the code is manageable and you can so it's layered in an organized way, and so that we can build more complex chatbots from rule-based chatbots and to extend the functionality of the chatbot. We need this architecture so that we can manage the code. But otherwise, the code will get very cluttered and messy. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So response. Okay. So this is just another way you can give them the response you want. And just so wherein I'm importing a particular library or random wherein if I so I'll not run this piece of code, but I'll explain what is it is trying to. So to so for example, I just want to so just define this function. Um, so okay, so I'll remove this function because these are the same functions. So what will this do is every time my response uh, is forcing me to call this particular function, the response function, then just expect it to respond anything from this particular response, these particular responses. Random dot choice just picks one particular random response from the array that is being provided, and it just gives me a response different each and every time. So if I just type hello, although it is calling the same function, but it can vary with the responses. Okay? So it is calling the same function, but is giving different responses each and every time. And the more number of responses I'm able to define in this, uh, the, the better the nuances will. Okay. So here are just the list where we those chatbots great. Okay. So if typos are present or something which is unseen before, uh, and if I scale to 100 plus topics, the code becomes a huge compilation of else if statement, which was hard to maintain, and context. Uh, it is impossible to understand what the bot is trying to give it some type of nuances. We need to also specify the nuances as well. So these are some downsides of the startup. So this is the cheat sheet if anyone wants to take a screenshot of it. Otherwise, thank you everyone. This was the end of this video session. We'll meet next week.
Sir, can you just go back to the slide 9?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Meeting in the
Bye,
next
sir.
session. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.